Once again, good morning. I'd like to observe all protocol, and firstly I'd like to acknowledge and welcome our Vice Chancellor Designate, Prof. Zida, our Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and Research, Prof. Jumbo, and all HODs and most important, all first year lecturers, not that the others are more important. I would like to welcome you to our first ever symposium for the VUT first ever symposium on the first year lecturers and for first year lecturers and good teaching practice for first year lecturers. I'm so happy to see all of you here. I actually never expected such a big turnout, but surely this symposium is long overdue. I think I've been here now at VUT for 5 years. And this is one of the things that I actually wanted to have within the first 2 years that I arrived. But I'm so happy to see that it's actually taking place here today and that the turnout is so good. I wondered if you cannot just greet your colleague to the left of you, and if you could just greet your colleague to the right, because just to strengthen the networks, and so that we can know that. So that we don't have to feel alone. We mustn't feel alone. Isn't it so often, so many times we feel alone in what we are doing? And one of the best things that events like this helps us to understand is that we are not alone. We are not alone in the situation that we find ourselves in. So I want to say that I believe in transformation, and I believe in transformatory practice. And I know that transformatory practice allows us to ask many questions. And some of the questions, before we can actually ask those questions, we need to learn to engage first with asking questions. And we need to engage with our own practice. So much of our emphasis is on saying, students need to come to class, they need to engage with their own teaching and learning. But it becomes a very contested area when we as lecturers, we as the champions of first years, students in the university, we as the custodians of first year teaching, we are not engaging with best practice. We are not engaging and asking ourselves appropriate questions. So some of the questions we need to ask ourselves is how can I improve my teaching practice? Where do I start to improve my teaching practice as a first year lecturer? And so it's very important that we ask those necessary questions. So because the more questions we ask, the more answers we'll get, so that we can ask more questions around our own teaching practice. As I said, I'm very happy that the first year lecturers symposium has commenced. I'm so happy, that this symposium is happening. But I'm hoping that out of the symposium, it won't just end there. I'm hoping that we will see it necessary in our faculties to continue with this engagement, and to continue with this engagement across faculties by starting communities of practice. One of the best ways to know that we're not alone, to understand our teaching practice, to engage and to engage with our context is through communities of practice. And I'm hoping that this symposium will give rise to different communities of practice. And I'm hoping that I'm going to get those mundane requests to say, please, Dr. Machika, can you please fund us to go and see this thing at this university? Or can you please help us by paying for this person to come and speak to us in our community of practice? Or can you support us by buying us tea? And those are the kinds of requests that I really love, and I'm really happy to support that. I will even, go and request money and funding from the DVC, because I believe that those are the kinds of things that we need to support. So I'm hoping that we'll start some communities of practice out of this. I'm hoping that we will use our Vutela platform to upload resources for first-year lecturers. That there will be a module for first-year lecturers where they can upload resources and share it, and all first-year lecturers can have access to that. And I'm hoping that it will have links to open resources for first-year teaching practice, and that we will actually have an opportunity to have a resource room. I think there will be a resource room in the new African Languages building, and I'm hoping that you will use that resource room to come and develop resources for your teaching. So I think without much further ado, I'm looking forward to the engagement today. I'm excited about it, and I'm actually excited because we're starting out in the presence. We're going to be addressed by our VC designate, which is a wonderful tone to start the symposium on for the next 5 years. And I'm so looking forward to the speakers. I hope you're looking forward to the speakers. I'm really looking forward to that. So I wish you all of the best. I hope you're going to stay for the lunch. I believe the lunch is on a boat. I don't know if everybody can get on that boat because there's so many people here. I'm not sure. I'm willing to forfeit mine and Prof. Chimbo on behalf of Prof. Chimbo. I'm willing to forfeit his space and my space so that someone else can go and have that lunch on the boat. But I wish you all of the best, and I'm going to call on Prof. Chimbo to actually welcome you and also to introduce our VC designate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Machika. It's a very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I think Dr. Machika said I can forfeit my seat. I'll be more than happy to forfeit my seat on the boat. I was born and bred in a small village northeast of Harare in Zimbabwe, and I never saw big rivers like this one, so hence I suffer from motion sickness, so I can't be on a boat. If I have to be on a boat, it's a serious challenge. So I can give you my space, but good morning to all of you colleagues. My role is a very simple one. We have got visitors that are visiting from other institutions, from East Africa and from the east coast of this country and elsewhere as well, but Professor Gordon Zide will do that. My role is just to introduce our incoming Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Gordon Zide, who is going to welcome all of you this morning. He's no newcomer to the Valley University of Technology. Professor Zide was with us as Deputy Vice Chancellor, Governance and Operations. But we knew him as DVC then. Now he is going to be our VC designate come the end of this month. So for those of you that may not know him that much, he is coming to us from UNISA, where he was registrar at the University of South Africa. He was there for a short period, for a year, but obviously the pull to come back to the VUT was much stronger than the push to stay at the University of South Africa in UNISA in Pretoria. So he is here with us. He is no newcomer to education. He is no newcomer to higher education. He is no newcomer to university education in this country, in the region, and elsewhere. And I'm sure you have a lot to discuss with our colleagues from East Africa, because he has been to East Africa and to Uganda more specifically. Professor Zide matriculated at the Fremantle Boys High School in Lady Frere and thereon proceeded to Fort Hare University. So I feel honored that I'll be working with someone who went to a boys' high school. I also went to a Catholic boys' high school. And in those years, I will not say what year it is, because the mathematicians among you will start to calculate things that they're not supposed to calculate. But I also went to a boys' high school, to a Catholic Marist high school, but it was not called a high school. It was called a college. You know, in those days, high schools were called colleges. And some of us are very proud that we went to high schools that are called colleges. So I'm very happy that I'll be working under someone who also went to a boys' high school. And I think, you know, we will be able to work very closely together as we did in the past, because intellectually and culturally, we share the same. So I'm looking forward to working with him. At Fort Hare, he completed a BA and a BA honors and a master's degree in arts in the field of anthropology. In 1999, the then University of Port Elizabeth conferred on him a PhD in anthropology. Currently, he is one of the few people in this country that we can refer to as Professor Emeritus, and Professor Emeritus of Social Anthropology, which was conferred upon him by the University of South Africa to recognize his contributions to the field of anthropology and to the field of social anthropology in particular in this country. His senior management career kicked off when he became the first black registrar of the Fort Hare University, then as advisor to the Vice Chancellor and Principal of Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. And this morning we were chatting before we came here with him about his role as advisor to the Vice Chancellor of NNMU. And you know, it was revealing that these are the same qualities that made him to have such a rise, you know, within the field of academia and within the field of management in particular. Given the breadth and depth of his higher education knowledge and experience, he will surely make an invaluable contribution not only to the Vaal University of Technology, but to the higher education sector in this country, in the region, and on the continent as a whole. A person, a man, an intellectual, and an administrator of many talents, it is clear that Professor Zide will bring in to this institution new ideas, and to the VUT community is looking forward to his leadership and direction. I am particularly looking forward to his leadership and direction. I think this is a golden opportunity for this institution to take advantage of his experience at Fort Hare, of his experience in Port Elizabeth, of his experience here at VUT in governance, transformation, and operations, and also his experience at UNISA, so that together, under his leadership, when he takes over the reins of this institution, you know, we can take this institution forward and to heights that, you know, are unimaginable at the moment. One of his areas of expertise is transformation. By the way, transformation does not simply mean that you look at color. Transformation means something much more than, you know, what most of us talk, and he is very committed to transformation. It's transformation of the genetic code of this institution, it's transformation of the vision of this institution, it's transformation of the mission of this institution, it's transformation of the core face of this institution, and it's transformation of the student body of this institution in terms of what we do. And it is transformation of what exactly you are doing today, which is teaching and learning. So Professor Gordon Zide is committed to that particular agenda, and I hope that we will be looking forward to years of excitement in terms of pushing this institution forward. So colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, with these few words, I would like to call upon Professor Gordon Zide to come and address us. Thank you.
Professor Jimbo, my friend, my brother, my colleague, Thank you very much for this very moving citation. I was tempted to say this moving obituary, but I understand where we are. Colleagues, good morning. I want to greet all of you in the name of this symposium. I don't want to say in the name of Jesus Christ, but in the name of this symposium. Some couple of years back, in fact, I'm happy to learn that Prof. Jimbo also went to a boys' high school. So there is a lot that we share between him and I. Most importantly is that the president of Zimbabwe studied with my uncle at Fort Hare, and when my uncle decided to run away from the brutality of the policemen in South Africa, decided to go to Zimbabwe, and President Mugabe was so kind in giving him a home away from home. And as we speak, he lies buried at the Heroes Acre in Zimbabwe. And so the compact that we have between Prof. Jimbo and I is that before the old man, the 93-year-old, goes to his forefathers, I would really like to have a chat with him. And then, of course, to pay my respects to my uncle, John Nyati Pokela. Colleagues, some couple of years back, I was requested by the Anglican Church in BE to preach. You know, one thing that Prof. Jimbo forgot to mention is that I'm a Methodist preacher, and so they asked me to preach, and I was told that when you address the Anglican people, you start off by saying, "May the grace of the Lord be with you," and they would respond, "And with you too." So I practiced, and I had it right. And so indeed, when I took to the podium, I said, "May the grace of the Lord be with you." And please do respond. And with you too, that's right, yeah. And so that's what they said. But somehow the microphone was not working properly. And little did I know that it was actually in my mind that the microphone was not working. So I was soliloquizing and said, it would appear that the microphone is not working properly. There's something wrong with the microphone. And the response was, "And with you too." So I hope that today it will not be a repeat performance of that. Colleagues, it gives me a great honor and a privilege to introduce Professor Basheka, who is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Technology and Management in Uganda. Prof, welcome, and there is a lot that we can share. About 3 years back, the late Professor Peter Omara Ojungu and I spent a week at Makerere University, and we thought that we would make sure that there is partnership between VUT and Makerere. Makerere is related to Fort Hare in many respects, but now that you are here, I think we will have to reciprocate, and of course this visit will have to translate into a formal MOU being signed between your university and our university, so that this brotherhood and partnership and collaboration can in fact be strengthened. So welcome, sir. I also would like to welcome Dr. Lester Ishawa from the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. Welcome, sir. And please give our best regards to the Vice Chancellor there, and say that in all the trials and tribulations which affect higher education we are with you. And colleagues, all of you, unfortunately, I did not take the list from the back as you were writing your names. Otherwise, I would be individually welcoming you all. But I like the Zulu language. You know, in isiZulu, when you greet a person, that's singular, where you say sawubona. And sawubona simply means I see you and I recognize you. And when it is plural, you say sanbonani, which translates to I see you all and I recognize you all. And so allow me therefore to use my mother's language, not my mother's language, she was Zulu, and say I recognize you all and I welcome you all. And so no one will accuse me of not having recognized him or her. You all recognized and you all welcome. I have titled my words of wisdom and encouragement to you, and thank you very much, Pauline, for this. I think this is the first of its kind at VUT, and thank you for that kind of leadership, and to Professor Jimbo as well as the overall person in charge of the academic at VUT. So what I'm going to share with you very briefly is the vulnerability and the culture shock of first-year students. Remember, when first-year students come to a university, this is a totally foreign environment, and some of them have never been away from their homes. They have never been away for a long time, and so it is a foreign environment. And so your responsibility, unfortunately, I'm preaching to the converted, is to make them feel at home, a home far from home. So that is why I say we're going to share a bit about the vulnerability and the culture shock of first-year students. They feel lost and isolated, and some of them would meander and wander in the corridors of a university, not knowing where to go and how to get what. And even some of them, as you would know, have never been used to going to the library in their schools. There aren't any libraries. And so our responsibility is to ensure that they do understand the procedures and the systems of higher education as they impact, except for those, of course, who have been to the so-called Model Cs and private schools. You know, their exposure to higher education is much better than those coming from the previously disadvantaged backgrounds. But I also want to say from the disadvantaged background. You know, sometimes when you say previously disadvantaged, the assumption is that they are no longer disadvantaged. They were disadvantaged previously, but now they are no longer. And then, of course, I know that Professor Mutana during graduation ceremonies would always say to students who are graduating, remember, you have lost a certain status, and that status is previously disadvantaged. You cannot now, with a degree, go around saying you are previously disadvantaged. And so the culture shock and the other challenge which the first-year students have, it's a language barrier. Some of them have never been taught by an English-speaking person, not to mention by white colleagues. You know, when I was at NMMU, as Professor Jimbo indicated, I was responsible for transformation as an executive advisor to the Vice Chancellor. So there came to me a first-year student, passed matric, flying colors, from one of the rural schools in the Transkei. And he came to me and said, "Sir, you know, I passed matric, but coming to NMMU has really been a shock. When lecturers, they give lectures, they are so fast, and I don't follow a word because their English is just a high-flown Oxford English. I can't follow, and I'm afraid I'm going to fail." And so I said, okay, no, don't worry. So I made arrangements with one lecturer in the Department of English, and I said to her, please, can you assist me and give extra tuition to this young man, just so that he can easily catch up. And so he did. And I'm happy that he passed in June. Now, when he came back, he brought me a leg of sheep as a thank you. And I said, no, my boy, I did what any parent could do. Take this leg of sheep, go and have a nice time with your friends, because at least you did not disappoint me. And now the lecturer said, I actually asked her whether she would charge me, because I was prepared to pay out of my own pocket. And she said, no. You're responsible for transformation. At least this is something that I can also do in the advancement of transformation. And so, remember, when we give lectures to first year students, it's a foreign environment. They are not used to it, and they feel lost and isolated. But also there is a language barrier. It is very, very important. And the most important thing, it is to walk with them all the time. You know, I remember when we were first year students at Forte way back, and I want to go back to what Peter said. I'm not going to tell you the year, in case mathematicians will quickly, you know, calculate. But of course, I mean, I don't mind. I'm an old man, so it's fine. So I wanted to do law. I mean, those days when you wanted to do law, you had to have Latin. And I did not do Latin in matric. And so we went to the first lecture. There was a Professor Jacobs, responsible for Latin. And then he said to us, how many of you have done Latin in matric? Well, there were quite a number of hands. And he looked at us and he said, well, I think you have come to a wrong class. Because if you did not do Latin, there is no hope for you to pass law. And we looked around. Following day, I took a decision. I said, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I will go to the other. Now we went to a Psychology 1 lecture. And there was a Professor Kruger. The hall was full, Pauline. And he looked around and he said, I can tell you now, only a square root of this class is going to pass. And so the following day, naturally, a few people attended. But I was one of those who said, well, I went to a Latin, I dropped out because I said, I don't know, I am not going to drop out here. So at least, yeah, a few. And then when they were about 50, 55, then Professor Kruger said, well, this is the class that I'm going to remain with until the end of the... But you see, he may have been saying those things in jest, but to a first year students rather, they mean a lot. Because remember, one of the students is probably a first generation to come to university. And so such negative comments have got a terrible impact. Ours is really to try and to motivate, because they are not used to higher education pedagogy. And so we have to make sure that we encourage, we motivate, and make sure that we work with them. And then, of course, I'm not going to dwell much on formative and summative assessment, but most importantly, when assessment is done, let us not assess and to test the stupidity of the students. The most important thing to do is to assess their understanding. I think that is very critical, because when you assess their understanding, at the same time you're assessing your own input and your own delivery, and you are able to judge and evaluate yourselves and say, well, this is what I've done. And by the way, also it is important to get feedback. I was humbled when Prof. Jimbo was talking about UNISA. I introduced in the registrar's portfolio at UNISA, a 360-degree feedback. And I said to my colleagues, guys, I'm not just leading the registrar's portfolio, but I equally would like to have feedback as to whether you are working with me or I'm giving a specific direction. And this is something, by the way, which we are going to introduce at VUT. That 360-degree feedback is very, very important and critical because it helps us to be on our toes. And so even when you're dealing with the first-year students, that feedback actually gives you a barometer by which you can equally test yourself. So that is very, very important. The topical issue, colleagues, which is a challenge I want to leave with you. You know that we're talking currently about Africanization, African Renaissance, Black consciousness, and decolonization. I think that is very critical. Remember, you have to create an environment and a terrain with which students are familiar. For a long time, you would know that, and I don't want to fall into the trap of our Premier of the Western Cape about decolonization and how colonization has been good, this and that and that. I'm not in that space. But however, I want us to demystify this whole concept of African being a dark continent, where things that are much better came from Europe. Actually, they did not. I mean, if you take the history of Egypt, the hieroglyphics, they originate from Africa. And so as you walk with the students, let us make sure that we not only customize, but we continentalize our pedagogy for our students to understand that they are of the African continent, and out of them there is something positive that can come. If I can, for a while, I'm not going to quote verbatim in the Bible, but you all know that Jesus Christ was born in Nazareth, Bethlehem, and they say, can out of Bethlehem be born a star? And so when we're talking about Africanization, and all of us here are actually Africans, whether one is white or black, if you are born and bred in Africa, you're an African. That is why in America, now, black Americans no longer talk about themselves as black Americans, or even, the term that was very derogatory, Negroes. They're talking about African American. So that is very, very important. And I always, in my transformation journey, I say, if we take the racial composition of South Africa, and it is black and white, and we have in mind a zebra, and you say, in a zebra, I don't want the white color. I just want the black stripes. And you take a gun and you aim for the white stripe. What happens? You kill the animal. Likewise, if you aim for the black, you shoot, you kill the animal. And so in our South African context, we need to work together, black and white. Why do I say so? I say so against the spectrum. How many of you have watched this film, The Passion of the Christ? Thank you. What I like most about The Passion of the Christ, and I recognize Gidi and Tish, what I like the most about The Passion of the Christ, when the Roman soldiers, and I want us to understand this in this context, when the Roman soldiers forced Simon of Cyrene to carry the cross. As Jesus Christ kept on crawling and falling, Simon of Cyrene, as you know, is a Libyan, is an African from North Africa, said to Jesus Christ, by the way, Jesus Christ is always painted white, but the archaeological evidence, remember I did anthropology and my ancillary was archaeology. So archaeological evidence has it that Jesus Christ was actually not white, let alone that he's painted white, but for a while, let's accept that he was white. Let's just accept it, just for the purpose of this illustration. But when Simon of Cyrene, a black guy from Africa, saw Jesus Christ crawling and falling, he said, don't give up, we are almost there. Now, look at this in this way. A black person saying to a white person, facing the same destiny, don't give up, we're almost there. This is the message which I would like you, when you're dealing with first-year students. You know that I spoke about a foreign environment. They will feel tempted to give up. But the kind of motivation that comes from you would always say, don't give up, my dear. You are almost there. And so it is important, and it is our responsibility to look at the contextualization of the curriculum, in essence, to bringing it closer home. And then, of course, we know that we're talking globalization and industrialization, but I would like to challenge all of us to read the book that has just been published by Klaus Schumer. He was the chairperson and the founder of the World Economic Forum. And the title of the book is The Fourth Industrial Revolution. The importance and the value of technology in the current global and continental revolution of technology. That is very critical, because as a University of Technology, as the first year lecturers, it is important to relate the significance and the importance of technology. And finally, and I'm not going to go to this in its entirety, but it is just important as well to say, remember what Leo Buscaglia would always say, only you can make the difference. And the time to make the difference is now, and only you can make the difference. And then I thank you.
Thank you to Prof. Zida for such an inspirational message this morning. I think under normal circumstances we would have liked to have taken some questions, but unfortunately Prof. Zida has to go to an audit risk committee meeting with Prof. Jimbo, and so we welcome them to actually leave and give them that space to actually leave. But I also like to say to Prof. Jimbo, thank you for coming. I hope you're coming back, sir. If you don't come back for lunch, at least come back after lunch, because I'm sure first-year lecturers would like to engage with you around a lot of pertinent questions to our university. And I think often we don't give them the platform enough to actually engage with you. I know you are, if I may say this, in-your-face type of person. I know you are going around. I don't know if I should ask you how many people have had Prof. Jimbo in their lecture. I'm sure there will be quite a few people. But I think people, I know that you care, Prof. That's the thing that I like the most about you, that you care. And we need that in VUT. So I would like you to come back if it's possible, and come back in the afternoon so that we can engage with you and ask you some important questions. Thank you so much, sir. enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you once again to Prof. Sida. I'd like to hand over. I'd like to hand over to the convener of the day, which is Dr. Kekana. Dr. Kekana has just joined the VUT, and I think one of your worst nightmares is to be asked to be convener of a symposium just after you've arrived. Dr. Kekana is our manager for African language development, and so I hand over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As it has been said, my name is Tabo Kekana, the new manager at VUT for African Language Development Unit. I'm going to be directing this program from now onwards. And when I look at my time, it's exactly 9:15, and when I look at the program that have been given to me, I think we should be ready to have our first keynote speaker, who is Professor B.C. Basheka. Professor Basheka is a professor of public administration and management and the current vice chancellor of Uganda and Management University, UTAM in Uganda. Professor Basheka is an accomplished scholar, researcher, teacher in management and leadership consultant. He embraces a diagnostic approach to complex situations, engages a broad set of behavioral and leadership styles depending on the situation. It's committed to learning and continuous improvement and demonstrates a great sense of courage to navigate a volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous business, organizational and management world. Professor Basheka has a multidisciplinary academic background with a PhD in political science and public administration from the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, where he specialized in public policy management and evaluation and public financial management. He also has a second PhD in educational administration, planning and management from Makerere University, where he specialized in higher education, governance, and education reforms. Professor Basheka has a master's degree in social sector planning and management from Makerere University with a specialty in university quality assurance management and a second master's degree in project management from Uganda Management Institute with a specialty in program design and evaluation. So we are very honored to have a scholar of this caliber within our midst and to be addressed by such a person. I hope after his address we're going to have very interesting and engaging debates, because as we know, as colleagues who are engaged with first year students, we are actually the people who are in the driving seat of making sure that the higher education landscape works. Because without us, you can imagine, without the first year lecturers, you can imagine that universities might not have students. Universities might not be able to run. A university without students won't be a university. So I think with those little weights, I would like to call upon Professor Basheka to come and give his talk, and then from there we will have a short question and answer session where we'll engage with him regarding his talk, our experiences and our perspectives regarding first year experience and first year students. I would like you to please put your hands together for Prof. Basheka as he ascends the stage. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Program Director, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start, as they are connecting, what is the vision of VUT? What is the vision of VUT? And what is the mission of VUT and the core values? Huh? Any volunteer? Because it is supposed to be in your mind. It's supposed to be in your blood. The mission particularly, because it is the reason as to why you are there. What is the mission of VUT? Huh? Do you have a strategic plan as a university? You don't have any document that has a mission of that university? Yes. I will verify that. I was asking whether there is internet, because later on I want to show you how technology can work. The reason why I'm asking it is this is a center for academic development. This is their vision, this is their mission, and these are their core values. But this is still the center. I didn't find the one of VUT, the university. Huh? Where is the poster for the university? Because that's where one expects to find the vision and the mission. If one enters the gate of a university, even if it is the gate man, the driver, they should be able to state the mission of the university, because that is the reason as to why you are there. There was a slight change in my invitation. I was given a topic on where to present, and when I checked the program, I had to make some quick adjustments. We are like pastors. When a pastor is called, he doesn't have to first say, let me go and check the relevant verse. So I had to quickly change my slides to suit what was on the program, which is the role of technology in the teaching and learning within the context of the 21st century. So how many of you have smartphones connected to the internet? And how many have more than one phone connected to the internet? You also have an iPad connected to the internet. You may have a laptop which also has access to internet. And when you go in the office, you could have a desktop. Currently, universities find themselves operating conceptually at different levels. The activities which you undertake in universities, you must be able to connect them to the vision and the mission of the university. That's why I was asking it. But you also must connect them to the objectives of government, the South African government in this context. And then South Africa has regional obligations. For example, it is a member of the SADC countries, and there are objectives there which they have agreed upon. And as you are teaching in the university, the curriculum must be able to be mindful about the goals and objectives of that regional initiative. Then there are those needs at the continental level, because there are so many charters which different countries have signed. At an African level, we have, for example, Vision 2063, and all countries are supposed to be contributing to that vision, much as you have your own Vision 20 what? Is it 2030 for South Africa? Vision 2030. Now, there are global expectations as well, particularly Sustainable Development Goals, number 4, which is about education. And they are also, at a global level, South Africa is part of the BRIC countries. As you go in universities, you'll find we are faced with changing demographic characteristics, partly the students, the first-year students you'll be dealing with. And because of that, there are divergent delivery modes which have created new demands and expectations on how the academic staff should deliver. In universities, you'll find you have highly regulated academic activities. They require marks. They require you to teach. The students require to graduate after they have met the requirements. And those in administration, they find themselves in an environment where they are expected to do more with less because of the resource constraints. Resources are these days scarce. And there is stiff competition among higher education providers. You'll be struggling to attain a certain ranking status within South Africa. If the global rankings emerge, you want to see where is VUT. What is the rank of VUT? The recent rank in June. Do you have a core competence of keeping quiet to all the questions I ask? There is increased demand from various stakeholders, particularly the students, because the kind of students you are dealing with are now very complex, very difficult. They are mature. Some of them are working. Some may have actually more money than you who is teaching them, and they may not understand that they are students. And there are demands, increased demands of access, where countries are demanding universities to provide access to a number of the population. When I was reading through various documents across Africa, there are unique 7 challenges which African higher education institutions are facing. The first one being the faculty shortage, particularly shortage of senior faculty at the level of a PhD. You go in a school, you go in a faculty, and you find there are limited number of professors, for example. Those professors who are there are aging, meaning they are about to retire. And the extent to which they have groomed others to take over their positions is difficult to tell within the African context. I don't know whether South Africa has a different experience from that challenge. There is inability to retain qualified faculty and good research scholars in most of our universities. There is shortage of good technical, administrative, and management staff. And the problem of brain drain, which has been unique, South Africa, I think, has been mainly a recipient of most scholars from other countries, although the recent events are restricting the entry of those scholars. Unattractive working conditions and the attrition of HIV/AIDS have also been an issue that has affected the shortage and the development of faculty within the universities. The second challenge touches on leadership, those who are in leadership position, those who are in governance, and those who are in management. There is a difference between these 3 words. Those who are in governance, those who are in leadership, and those who are in management. You find a lot of management inefficiencies which drain scarce resources away from core academic activities. In Uganda, almost it is a norm in one of the best public university, Makerere, that in every semester you are sure there has to be a strike. In every semester. If it is not the academic staff demanding salaries, it is the students. If it is not the students, then the administrative staff. And the time which is wasted, sometimes the problems are caused by management inefficiency. Allocation of large share of the institutional budgets to non-educational expenditures. You find in most African countries, institutional leaders are poor in strategic planning, in doing research and advocacy, in managing research, in financial planning and management, in human resource, dealing with personnel, performance management, and building partnerships. As the VC Dignate mentioned, these days you cannot, as a university, you cannot as a scholar, you cannot as an administrator solve all the problems alone. You require network. And some of the solutions are beyond your own university, beyond your own country, so it requires a lot of networking. You'll find across Africa, there are challenges of quality and relevance. We are choosing as universities that we are producing people who are not relevant to the market. Have you heard that accusation? That we churn out graduates who go out there, but they do not meet the needs and the requirements of the employers. And they are questioning universities, what exactly are you producing? And when they make that accusation, certainly the teachers who do the teaching cannot escape the blame. Sometimes you find the problem originates from the entry. The people who join, for example, first year, they are not yet, they have problems. But once they go into the university, our role is supposed to be transforming them. So the decline in quality of education, learning and research is attributed to these problems. They vary across different universities. At least in South Africa, I think you have sufficient infrastructure and equipment, but you'll find unqualified teaching staff, poorly prepared secondary students, an absence of academic rigor and systematic evaluation of performance. And there is lack of access to the global knowledge pool and the international academic environment, which should have a big contribution in our teaching and the relevance of the curricula, as I mentioned. You'll find there are weak research and innovation capacities, where that in African universities they lack adequate research capabilities, infrastructure and facilities, particularly funding, which are needed to make universities active beneficiaries of the global knowledge. And most countries have invested less in research and innovation, particularly in the higher priority areas which are critical for the development of the country. And the expansion and development of postgraduate education in very many countries is very slow. How many PhD students annually, for example, does VUT produce? How many master's students does it produce compared to the requirements? There is a lack of dynamic university-industry linkage, how we relate with the industry. Then there are financial management problems, as well as poor physical facilities and infrastructure, plus their inability to meet the increasing demands of access. So within these challenges, you will find that universities are required now to change the mode in how they deliver their services, which are mainly clustered into three: the teaching, the research, and the community engagement, the traditional roles of the university. And among the strategies that are needed are the e-solutions to the academic and administrative processes. And of course, it goes alongside those other strategies. I will concentrate more on the first one, considering the theme. The lecturers are supposed now to consider technology as part of their career, because the emergence of digital technologies and their penetration into all levels of education has challenged universities and higher education institutions to redefine how they teach, to redefine how their research practices, and to redefine their community engagement approaches. Digital technologies play an important role in the instructional processes in order to effectively prepare the students to face the challenges, which are many in the workplaces. And these digital technologies are supposed to help in transforming the students to acquire the 21st century skills. There is an article by one of your own in South Africa titled "The Digital Age, Changing Roles of Lecturers at the University of Technology in South Africa." I invite you to read that document and you'll get insights. So there is a paradigm shift in the way education is viewed and delivered. And at the beginning of the new millennium, we find that organizations started viewing learning increasingly as a competitive weapon rather than an expenditure item. And organization success was viewed to depended more and more on high quality employee performance, which in turn requires that those employees have to be trained, and the huge knowledge gaps brought about by the new global economy poses more complex challenges to a wide range of stakeholders, including the workers, requiring higher levels of education. They are supposed to have computer literacy, they are supposed to have critical thinking, and at the same time they are supposed to have information analysis capabilities to deal with the mass of information at their disposal. But to what extent are we deploying technology? So there are a number of drivers as to why the drivers to e-learning. You have heard of this concept, e-learning. One of them is the changing demographics, where you find society has undergone several tremendous shifts, changing the nature of the families, workplaces, and economies. You just go at the airport, you'll find almost at every minute, everybody is on a mobile phone. Even in the classrooms, you are teaching, someone is on WhatsApp. The students. You go in a home, you'll find everybody is at least on some form of gadget. And those can be exploited for learning, because you can easily target the students, the learners, wherever they are. And I will explain how we are doing it shortly. There is a technology revolution where technology has transformed our society and economy in such a way that the PC is now a very important instrument in our daily activities. And the explosion of internet usage, the mobile phone and other technologies have all combined to necessitate the need for e-learning. Globalization, the need for blending, all these. But what is e-learning? There has been a lot of definitions offered, and the most common one is the use of electronic means for teaching and learning. And e-learning is used to refer to the convergence of learning and the internet. It is also the use of network technology to design, to deliver, select, administer, and extend learning according to that authority. And it has a useful, that definition has an important message, that for you to adopt e-learning, for example, as VUT, there are a lot of design processes, especially of the content, design processes of the e-learning system and the infrastructure. Then you select the best mode of delivery, and then there has to be a lot of administrative activities around the e-learning concept. E-learning, according to Peterson and his colleagues, they defined it from the user perspective by considering the word E, the small e. That you can talk of e-exploration, where e-learners use the web as an exploratory tool to access information and resources. You'll be in class teaching materials, but the students will have gone online. They already have access to what you are teaching. And sometimes, if they are sharp, they challenge you. Or they undermine you. They say, even this one we thought he's serious, but all he or she is teaching is already on the internet. E-experience, where the web offers e-learners a total learning experience, from synchronous learning to threaded discussion to self-paced study. There is engagement, the ease of use, the e-empowerment. All these elements constitute the e-learning. Broadly, when you are talking about e-learning, it has these elements. That the system of learning using technology should have the ability to engage the students. The students should have engagement with the lecturers. And how is it done? The design of the e-learning system caters for it. For example, you can have the online chat sessions. If there was internet, I would connect to my people in Kampala, and we engage in some e-chat session. on the e-learning, our e-learning system, and you see how exactly it is done. So wherever you are, as long as you have access to the internet, as long as you have access, either a mobile phone, smartphone, or an iPad, you can teach people wherever they are across the country, even outside South Africa. Because our students, you find they are in Ghana, some students are in Cameroon, some are in Southern Sudan, others are in Botswana. Yes, there are some master's students in Botswana. We have someone from, I think, Singapore doing a master's in monitoring and evaluation, and they don't have to come to the university. We only use the e-learning system. The material you put on the e-learning should be able to make the learners happy. They should enjoy whatever is there. They should have the ability to exchange. It should be enriching their experiences. It should enhance their learning. It should extend their learning, and it should be able to empower them. And then, of course, it should be entertaining. And with distance learning, with we call it branded learning, where there is a mixture of face-to-face. You can have a mixture of face-to-face and the e-learning system. The material, the experience shows that the learners learn differently. There are those who prefer to learn texts, to read textbooks or written material. Others prefer to listen. So you must have, for example, animations. You know, when I talk about animation, I think, give an example here. We have an animation which requires this is a course. We don't have volume. Oh, it is not showing. The IT person, technology. Huh? That's where I'm seeing it. Requires So this is an example of one course. This is a graduate course in consultancy skills development. If you are teaching research methods, you can also have its animation. Any course you are teaching, you can have an animation. As a lecturer, you simply develop a brief content which you pass over to experts of technology and they convert it. So this has it will have a volume. If you are in a class, you have to put a volume, for example. If I'm not there, there is a screen where they watch in my absence. Then I can come after 1 hour to only engage them in the questions. Or it can be converted into smaller versions which can be shared on WhatsApp. Or those who have earphones, if they are in a taxi going home, they can still be learning. Wherever you are. So there are students who prefer this mode of teaching. So to enter into the learning environment, you must be able to convert this. It is not a very complex process because there are people who specialize in programming. There are people who do systems design, and they are able to convert it into a format that you want, but you have to advise them on what exactly you want to illustrate. So if you go on our e-learning platform, you'll find all types. We have particular courses. We started this last year. There are courses where all of them have this type of content only, that students are able to teach to learn on their own, because they are, most of them, like I mentioned, outside the university setup. I think the lady deleted my slides. Process. You closed them, or? Yeah, she closed them. Yeah, technology. So I'm about, yeah, it is back. Yeah. So in the technology-enabled learning, the facilitator has an obligation in a virtual learning environment where, as you are designing the learning materials, remember they should use all available technology. The teacher's obligation, you can provide real-time feedback. You can incorporate old and new experiences. You need to encourage collaborative learning and to lay a foundation for lifelong learning. And the facilitator is described in that kind of gentleman. Now we have an e-learning system as a university. If there was the internet, I would demonstrate how it works. But the architecture of that is that we believe in digital teachers, digital lecturers only. Then we also believe we are dealing with digital students, wherever they are, who are also connected to the digital family. Because some of the parents, some of the guardians, for example, for undergraduate students, first-year students, they may want to know how their students are learning. So all of them should be able to get connected. And we have all the material is on this space, which is called Utamu e-learning content space. And whatever goes there comes from different sources. For example, we have our own content database that contains all the training materials, whether PowerPoint, whether the animations, whether the SCOM files, whether the YouTube videos, all of them, the Utamu content space. But out there, because of technology, there is open access database. There are items which you can access. throughout the world, which are free. And then we also connect this to a UTAM e-library. We do not have a physical library. All the books that we have are only online, which solve the problem. One textbook can be shared by a limited number of students. But if you have a physical library, once one picks a textbook, then another has to wait unless you have so many. And then we have UTAM social applications. Most of our students who are doing computer security information systems are supposed to develop software as part of their training. So some of them are put there. But whatever goes into the e-learning space must be sieved through an integrated layer. And that integrated layer must be mindful that whatever goes there should be transformational e-learning material. It must meet the requirements of the regulators. We have, for example, the National Council for Higher Education in the country that accredits all programs, and whatever goes there must be accredited and must be in the interest of the policymakers. Then if, for example, we sign an MOU with VUT, we must be able to ensure that whatever goes in the e-learning space must meet the interests of the collaborative partners. And then there is an element of community engagement. Now, when you enroll for a course in first year, all you need to do is to register, and you must have the university email address, and then you can enroll yourself on any course you want. You are given access rights that will enable you to enter the e-library, that will enable you to enter the e-learning platform. If there is a test, I can set a quiz, an online quiz, where as a lecturer, I only need to give you a password, and it is programmed that the test is for 1 hour. Then, if you are online, wherever you are, I give you a password, and it opens. It times, remember it is 1 hour. When you have finished 10 minutes, it notifies you. So when the 1 hour is over, the system closes you, and then it asks you to click a button to submit. You submit. It instantly marks you and gives you your score. You don't have to disturb the lecturers that I want my marks. No. It instantly marks you. If you have failed, you develop pressure there and then. Then it logs you out, because you, after you have submitted and you have seen your score, then it gives you the right answers for each of the questions. Then you are logged out and you cannot have another try. But the lecturers have to be trained on how all this is done. For this system to work, you require e-textbooks, there are e-policies, the e-portals, the animations, the training videos, the SCOM files. A SCOM file is converted, it can be converted from a Word document. As a lecturer of a course, you give a synthesis of what is key in your course, and you give it to a team of animators. They convert it into the other videos, or they convert it into SCOM files, which are technology-enabled materials converted. Then they put some illustrations. And then on the e-learning platform, you can put website links, the resource center linkages, partner resource linkages. We can link with your library, for example, and the e-library I talked about, and so on. And developing an e-learning system is not difficult. If, for example, we have a partnership, in a matter of days, we will have developed an e-learning system, but all you need is to prepare the content. Because what goes there is the content, and that the content has to be developed by you. And whatever we put on the content, there must be a connection within the learning content design, whereby you have a course, maybe a module, and it must meet the requirements of the university, the school where it is located, the department, and the interests of the instructional designer, and their objectives. So the topic, the assessments, the practicals, the assessment objectives, all of them must be connected in a way, and you can easily convert into the e-learning content. So you can go on our website, you'll find more details. We have PhD programs, we have master's degree programs, we have postgraduate diploma programs that have a linkage with the master's programs. Then there are bachelor's degrees, these are undergraduates, ordinary diplomas, then professional courses like for accountants, like for procurement professionals, and then there are tailor-made courses which meet the interests of the working environment. That is our website, and we have 3 intakes within any academic year: 10th January, 10th May, and 10th September. We use a blended learning mode of delivery, and one group does not meet the other. We are a smaller university, but relying on technology to deliver education to millions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Basheka, for that inspiring and entertaining presentation, which I think it was thought-provoking, not so, colleagues? Yeah, so it makes one wonder and asks questions such as, where are we as VUT in terms of technology? We can look at the presentation as a tool to measure ourselves in terms of how we are planning to go ahead, with the world of technology in institutions of higher learning, especially in institutions such as universities of technologies, as we know that they are still a new thing, perhaps maybe in our country. So what I'm going to do is, for now, when I look at my time, it says 4 minutes before 10. So we are slightly behind. We will try and make up for the time lost in the morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask to open the question and answer session, wherein we will engage and talk with Prof. Basheka regarding the presentation given. And I'm going to be perhaps maybe be helped by one of our colleagues or so to with a roving mic, if there is there is one here. So I'm going to be taking a round of questions from colleagues. Yes, Dr. Machi. Okay, no, it's fine. You're noted. You're noted. You're noted. Can we make it a round of 5 questions per? So the first one will be Dr. Machika. The second one you say. The third one, I saw a hand here, and the third one will be here. The fifth one. Fifth question. Okay. In the absence of the fifth question, I would like to hand over to Dr. Machika to present a question. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Basheka. Thank you so much for your presentation this morning. I want to ask a question. I'm sure that most lecturers sitting in the venue right now are extremely, I don't want to say scared, but maybe doubtful, because when you start speaking about e-learning, they think that e-learning is trying to phase them out, is trying to replace their jobs. And that's why at VUT we speak less about e-learning, and we are trying to talk more about blended learning. And I saw in your last slide, your university's marketing strategy says blended learning is the key competitive advantage. Now, I do believe that blended learning is the key competitive advantage. And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit more to that. Why is blended learning the competitive advantage? And how can blended learning move the university forward without excluding the lecturer? Because many lecturers do believe that, the minute you start speaking about e-learning, they think, we are trying to exclude lecturing and to exclude lecturers. But that is not the aim. So I'd like you to just talk to that. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So Can we have the second question? I think the second question was coming from this side. Yes, over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to add that e-learning provides a lot of new possibilities to make information accessible for the students, but we mustn't forget that the student must still digest that information. So just because the information is available doesn't mean the student has already understood what is presented. And I think that is where I think the lecturer comes in now, because he has to help the student to digest this information, which of course the computer, the technology cannot do. And I think that is where we have to maybe get this cooperation between the technology on the one hand and the connection with the lectureship on the other hand.
Thank you so much for that comment. Yeah, I would like to go for the third question. The third question? Yes. Over to you.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the presentation. I would like to find out a bit more about what the presenter introduced as academic rigor, first of all, because I would like to just maybe try and find out what is the context of this. Second, we're talking about e-learning here, and I've been quite very much deep into this particular topic, where I thought that referring to electronic means of presentation would actually kind of shift the power and engage the student as an active stakeholder in the learning process, which I did not seem to have. I appreciate that most of the people engaged in the e-learning as from the presentation are mature students. My question is finding out what is the buy-in of your first year student in this particular platforms, because my experience is that apparently they still need you at some point in front of you. You think that you have made tools available for them to engage with maybe basic things so that only the most relevant topics connect to you, but it just doesn't help. So what is the extent of your engagement with first year students? Because this is actually working for a student that takes responsibility and knows to turn themselves. But it doesn't seem to be coming, in my experience, with the first year student. How do you go about that? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Very interesting. The fourth question, over to you.
Good morning to everyone. Actually, mine is not a question, it's a comment. My name is Kidemetse Mukotsi. I'm the Director of Marketing and PR at VUT. I just want to commend Dr. Machika and her team, particularly Hazel, for inviting Professor Basheka from Uganda to come and share what they are doing at their university, because we are also a university of technology. And yesterday I happened to be addressed by Professor Bawa, the CEO of USAF, at the MIS symposium that we had at UKZN. And his focus was to say he's been challenging the Department of Higher Education, particularly Dr. Blayton Zimande, to say, why are universities operating the way they are at this era? Because the type of students that we are serving, they are totally different. Shouldn't we be listening to what they want or study how they want to be served and start planning around their needs? And Professor Zire is also of the view that as a university, he tends to promote student-centeredness And he said that as soon as he's into office, that's the direction that we should be moving as a university. And I know that we don't have infrastructure to support what we should be doing as a University of Technology. But I think, Dr. Machika, maybe we should take the discussion to a next level and challenge the powers that may be at BUT so that we are relevant. And I'm in the website of the Ugandan University. What is? Yeah, I'm in their website. It's very interesting and it's very fast. It's very interactive, and that's how we should be doing at BUT. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that comment. The last hand. Yes, over to you, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. I think most of us want to know what is the impact of this technology at your institution. What are the success rates? Because if I hear you very well, you said you started this e-learning 1 year ago, last year. So what is the overall impact? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that first round of questions. Are you ready to answer, Prof? Okay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the questions and the comments. Yes, the first one, I used to have that perception that e-learning will take away people's jobs. But in fact, it enhances their jobs. They are more engaged in e-learning. You are required to develop materials continuously more than in face-to-face, the traditional way of teaching. And you know, the world has changed. Recall when we used to go into the banks and we would line to meet the person at the counter. But now you can transact business wherever you are. You can book an air ticket. You can transact all your travel requirements online without necessarily going there. You can apply abroad without necessarily going there. So the lecturers will be more required, first of all, in engaging. Someone talked about engagement. Because e-learning simply means it is a change of context. The teacher remains the teacher, but you are only changing into a virtual learning context, where on one hand they are students, and on the other they are teachers, they are lecturers, but they are mediated by technology. You don't only need to see the students, but you are engaging online. So the level of engagement, the lecturer is actually more engaged, more useful in e-learning than in the face-to-face. You find here, after the class, you may go away, or you go in your office and the students do not have to follow you. But in the e-learning environment, you find a student has a question. So that question is posted on the e-learning platform, and then you see on your email that something has popped up, which requires a response. So at any time, whether it is at home, whether you're at home, you can be able to respond. And that is a culture which you have to adopt to, that all the time you have to be online, because students may be asking certain questions which are urgent. In April, we had, I was teaching a course, and there was a student from Tanzania. So he had been stopped from doing an exam. The system had blocked him from doing an exam because he had not paid. But he had paid and sent the invoice, and the accounts had not received it. So immediately I saw on my phone a message coming saying, yes, I'm about to sit for an exam in the next 10 minutes, but the system, I cannot access it because I received an email that I have not been paid. It is a matter of, we say, we cross one eye. The system remains there, but someone clicks a button which crosses the eye and you cannot see some materials. And we had to immediately verify, and indeed he had sent the information and it was opened. He continued. They are what I briefly called the chat sessions. If you are in a blended learning, you can decide that some lectures are done face-to-face, some hours are done face-to-face, such that you know the students, and then others are done when you are at a distance. And you can decide that a certain topic should be done on a chat session. So on the e-learning system, like you do chat on Facebook, you do chat on WhatsApp, there is a classroom environment of the sort, which is called a chat session. And it has rules of engagement. That, for example, it should not have more than 12 students at a go for maximum engagement. And then any student who enters the chat room must behave like it is the normal classroom. You don't enter the chat room and you find others have discussed, and then for you start greeting them. No. You are supposed to enter the chat room. I will be seeing you once you enter the chat room, because even your photos are supposed to be there. But once you enter, I receive a signal that so and so has entered, and then I ask you questions. I post a question and you are supposed to discuss, and they engage like in a normal classroom discussion environment. There are two types. One is a tutor-led chat session where the tutor, the lecturer, is the leader, and then you can have the second type, the student-led chat session, where one of the students is a leader. But even then, the lecturer remains very, very critical. In assessment, you have to assess them. It is you, the lecturer, to provide all types of assessments and mark them, either online or they submit a soft copy as an attachment, and you mark it, and then you have to give a feedback. And then so many types of activities which require a lecturer to actually be, you can't lose a job in an e-learning environment. It's blended learning is preferred, where there is it simply means there is a mixture of some face-to-face, and then there is the online version. But there are some universities in the Western countries which have purely gone online. You don't have to go there. There is no face-to-face interaction. If it is to be there, maybe you can go in Skype and so on. Digesting information, yes, like I mentioned, it is not only a matter of depositing data, depositing information on the platform, and you assume learning is taking place. There are systems, there are quality assurance systems, there are online engagements between the lecturer concerned and the students, and the lecturer maintains his or her presence throughout the learning environment, except that it is in the virtual context. But of course, it requires a high degree of maturity for both the students as well as the lecturers. Someone asked about academic rigor. It is really the degree of seriousness that you embed in all these processes. Remember, you have the requirements for someone to graduate must have fulfilled certain requirements. So you must, within the system, within the assessments, you must embed that degree of seriousness that someone cannot contest that your student did not meet the graduation load. And that is also measured at the level of the engagement. The buy-in of first-year students, actually they are the best to start with, because they are joining a new environment. And you tell them this is how business is done here. They are fast at adapting. Of course, they require some mentoring at first, and they have their own problems which need to be addressed, just like any other student. And the level of assessment is also very, very critical. And you require some minimum resources. We have, for example, e-learning officers whose work is supposed to be online all the time, engaging with dealing with all the students' questions which do not require the lecturers, the technical issues, and they also do an assessment. They know the level of engagement. They can produce statistics to tell that lecturer X has been on the e-learning system only 5 times. Because the system records, the moment you enter, the system records. They can be able to produce statistics on a weekly basis that student X has never accessed the e-learning, the e-library. So it is those statistics that enable follow-up. So if you are a lecturer and you assume there is no monitoring, the system monitors you, and the e-learning officer produces regular reports. And they are the ones who coordinate between the students and the lecturer. Sometimes you may be busy and you are not aware that you fixed a chat session with students on maybe next week on Tuesday at 1. We prefer to have chat sessions during between 1 and 2, when at least everybody is assumed, even when you are working, you are on a lunch break, or after 5. But that has to be agreed between the students and the lecturer. So it is this e-learning officer who will keep reminding you that you have a chat session at a particular time and so on. The lack of infrastructure, I'm sure you have computers, like I mentioned. Sometimes when you mention e-learning, people assume you are looking for massive infrastructure. That is not the case. You need a laptop or computers. You need the internet is the biggest maybe infrastructure that we are talking about. And the soft infrastructure, the people at the different chains. The impact of learning, we did not start it last year. Our university started in 2012, September 2012, and we have had 2 graduations. For postgraduate programs that that have only 1 year duration, and the bachelors, we had the first graduation last year. We have the 3rd graduation on the 29th of September, and we received the Africa Award last year for the best university using technology as far as delivering education is concerned. And our students are appreciative. It has had an impact. That's why we are attracting people who are busy, but they want to study. There are so many people out there, especially for postgraduate programs. We are more popular in postgraduate programs. They are busy, but they want to advance their academic qualifications, but there are no opportunities. So if you are in Southern Sudan where there is a war, you don't have to bother. Just look for a modem, have a laptop, you are able to study.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof, for those answers. Any other questions? Oh, okay.
Good day, my name is Onika. Thank you very much, Prof, for your presentation. What I want to know is the management of the work. How many students do you allocate to a lecturer? Because it's true that lecturers are supposed to be there for online, and sometimes there's overload. How do you manage the overload? Because students tend to not to ask questions in class, but in online, a lot of students are asking questions. And is there any provision for health purpose in terms of the eyes of the lecturers using their laptops or their WhatsApp?
Thank you for that. He's saying he didn't hear the last portion of your question.
The last one is about the health precautions, yes, of eyes. Because I was once an facilitator, and there was a lot of work from students. Students come as individuals, and you need to respond, and you spend a lot of time watching the screen. Is there any provision for health for lecturers?
Any other question? Okay, in the absence of questions, I'm going to give over to you, Prof, to answer that question. And then from there, I am going to give my colleague Hazel Michwenchi about 5 minutes to address us about some of the logistics. And then from there we will have a 15-minute tea break, and then we will come back and listen to the presentation from our second keynote speaker. Prof, are you ready to answer the question? Over to you.
Yeah, it goes to the first question. You know, distance education has been around for some time, but most people do not appreciate the context. If you are a Christian and you read the Bible, at least you know there are two books. St. Paul wrote 2 letters to the Corinthians. You have heard about that? And one of the letters, actually the 2 letters, he wrote them. He was using distance learning. He wrote them when he was in prison. But he wanted to communicate a message. So he wrote the first letter to his followers whom he had left when he was in prison, and they didn't get the message on what they were supposed to do. So he had to write the second letter. That's what is contained, the second letter to the Corinthians. He had to write the second letter, giving them strict instructions on what they were supposed to do. And indeed, they followed all those instructions. They were able to address the problems. That was the first form of distance education. He didn't have technology we are talking about. But now, you don't have to write letters, but you can send an email, you can use all types of communication. The workload of the lecturers, it really depends on how many courses you are teaching. Because I don't know your system, but in our case, you find a lecturer maybe is responsible for 2 courses. I may be teaching research method. I teach research methods for postgraduate programs. Then maybe in public administration, I teach administrative theory. You may find in the MBA program, I'm maybe teaching project management theory and practice. Now, all those, I have to design activities. Now, the trick is the kind of activities you design to engage the students will determine whether they disturb you or not. So I can develop a case study where you don't have a reason to keep asking questions here and there, and you are answering the case, because later on when they come for the first phase, we have to engage. So that is one, you can reduce the time they will use. Then 2, you embed activities where the students will engage amongst themselves. I talked about student-led chat sessions. As you design the program, there are activities which are purely at the level of the students themselves. Then 3, some questions are technical and they don't have to come to the lecturers. So they have to be answered by the e-learning officer. Now the e-learning officers are also, they are responsible for different activities. Students' queries on finance have to be directed to the finance department. Student queries on registration have to be directed to the academic registrar. Students' queries on maybe examinations. And we have a system where it is not only the lecturer who is responsible. The dean of the faculty has to do some monitoring. So there are some questions which may be directed to the dean and so on. So with these layers, you find the questions are minimized. And the health precaution, that one is not, it is like saying people should not be on mobile phones, because you don't have to be on the laptop. You can do all this, even the students can do their tests on a mobile phone as long as it is connected to the internet. In fact, when you find them when they are doing a quiz and they are on mobile phones, you may, it is only a change of environment, a change of perception that yes, things can be possible using any available technology. Because like research shows that at any one time, an adult, someone who is above 18 years, either has more than 1 mobile phone, and all of them are connected to the internet, or they have an iPad, they have a laptop, and they have a desktop. And there are so many channels. Either they can be on social media, WhatsApp, they can be on Facebook, they can be on Twitter. So sometimes you find them there by posting a question. They have so many WhatsApp groups, for example. If you want a communication, you post it there, and they are able to, you follow them depending on their mode, especially these young ones. They prefer Facebook, so the lecturers design some activities which find them wherever they will be in the various social learning platforms. So health, it is a self-regulated activity. The more you spend on the laptop, but you know, as teachers, that is part of our life. Before I came yesterday, we had a national assessment, a national symposium on assessment for different levels, and I was telling them, once you are a teacher, the work of a teacher moves beyond your classroom. Because the moment you leave a classroom, you don't say work has stopped. Although most organizations try to assess only your presence in class. But beyond the class, there are so many activities teachers do. You have to prepare, you have to read, you have to research in order to deliver the best lecture. So that is part of the occupational hazards. One can call them the occupational hazards. If you spend more time on the laptop, then your eyes may develop some problem.
I think we need to consider that if we want to go purely online. I know for now we don't think of this, but because I've done it before, I know
Okay. Yeah, that should be part of the e-policies, the health and safety requirements, both for the students and maybe the lecturers.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for those interesting questions and comments. In closing this part of this session, can I kindly request that we have a round of applause for Prof. Basheka. Thank you so much, Prof. Now I'm going to hand over to Ms. Mchunchi to give us information regarding the arrangements and logistics.
Good morning, colleagues. Can you give Prof. Basheka another round of hands, whatever they call it, applause? Thank you. You know, we became excited when we were preparing lunch, and we thought everybody would love to be in the boat. But we realized that some people are just scared of water in general, and they might not get themselves in the boat. So we don't want nobody to be left out, but at the same time, we're not going to force people to be in the boat when they are afraid of water. So when we break for tea now, we'll ask all those who are really scared of water to write their names so that we can arrange lunch. They can have lunch outside and just enjoy their hour of lunch without being disturbed mentally and physically and otherwise. Number two, all those who eat halal also see us at the back, because we did not cover that as well. And vegetarians, those who are vegetarians, please see us as well, so that we can cater for you. We are going to have a boat ride for lunch, so we are going to have a nice time. But I'm not winning those who don't want to be there. I know you want to be there, but I know that water is an issue, especially for us black people. So let's do that. So we will break for 15 minutes break for tea, and then we'll come back and we'll continue with our session. Enjoy. Thank you.
Colleagues, it is exactly 28 minutes after 10. So if you add that by 15 minutes, that means we should be here by 11:15. Can I kindly request that we observe that and be back by then? Thank you so much.